Have you ever felt like the odds were completely stacked against you? Well, today we're diving into a powerful idea that no threat, no matter how big, can actually stop God's plan for his people. He protects his servants to make sure his mission gets done. And to see just how true that is, we're going to look at a super intense moment in the life of the Apostle Paul.
Okay, so picture this. We're in the book of Acts. The Apostle Paul is a prisoner, and the situation is, well, it's really bad. You've got more than 40 men who have taken a solemn oath. They've sworn they won't eat or drink anything until Paul is dead. I mean, this isn't just some vague threat. It's a deadly, passionate conspiracy. You'd think there's just no way out for him.
And yet, it doesn't work. The plan completely falls apart. Those 40 men, they go hungry. Paul lives. And that begs the question, right? How? What kind of mind-blowing miracle saved him from a plot that seemed absolutely foolproof? You know, the answer is what makes this story so fascinating.
See, Paul's escape wasn't some big, flashy show of divine power. There were no fireworks from heaven, no legion of angels swooping in. Instead, it was what you might call God's quiet plan. It was just a series of small, kind of ordinary events that, when God wove them all together, pulled off this incredible rescue. Let's break down exactly how it all went down.
This is the chain of events, and it's pretty remarkable. It all starts with Paul's own nephew, just a boy, who happens to be in the right place at the right time to overhear the whole plot. So he runs and tells Paul, who then sends him to the Roman commander. A soldier escorts the kid, and the commander? He actually listens. He takes it seriously. And right away, he puts together a huge armed guard to get Paul out of there and safely to Caesarea in the middle of the night. No single grand miracle, just one quiet, providential step after another.
And this verse right here is the official reason he was protected. In a letter to the governor, the Roman commander basically says, hey, this guy hasn't broken any of our laws. This whole thing is an internal dispute about their religious law. So from the world's point of view, Paul is safe because he's technically innocent. But we can see God's hand moving behind the scenes, using the Roman legal system to protect the very man he chose to bring the gospel to the world.
So this incredible story from Acts teaches us our first huge lesson, and it's all about God's unexpected protection. It almost never looks the way we think it will. And you know what? It's usually at work long before we even know we're in danger.
And this isn't just some story from the Bible, right? It asks a really important question for all of us, right here, right now. What does this kind of unseen protection actually mean for you?
Here's the key takeaway. God's care for you is always active. Paul had no clue 40 men were planning his murder, but God knew. And way before Paul even got wind of the threat, God had already put the solution into motion, his nephew, right where he needed to be. God was working quietly, behind the curtain, making sure his purpose for Paul would not fail. And that same truth applies to you.
Okay, but why is this so important? Why does it matter that we get this idea of God's unseen work? How does it actually change the way we look at our own fears and our own challenges?
Well, here's how we can start living this out. First, we can make a conscious choice to rest in his protection instead of letting fear run our lives. Second, we can get into the habit of thanking him for the grace we don't even see. You know, the car accidents we narrowly avoided, the dangers he steered us clear of that we never even knew existed. And third, we can build our trust on the simple fact that he knows everything. He sees every single threat long before it ever gets close to us.
All right, let's jump into our second lesson, which builds right on top of the first. It's this idea of ordinary providence, which is just a way of saying that God often accomplishes his extraordinary plans through very ordinary, everyday things.
This slide really says it all, doesn't it? We have this tendency to expect God to show up with fire from heaven or by parting the Red Sea. We're on the lookout for angels and big, miraculous signs. But in Paul's story, how did God save him? Through a young boy, a soldier, a formal letter, and the Roman government just doing its job. It was all perfectly timed, incredibly effective, but there was nothing flashy about it. That's God's quiet, ordinary providence at work.
So let's bring this home again. If God's primary way of working is through the ordinary, how should that change the way we look at our own daily lives?
The truth is, most of God's work in your life probably won't feel like a big dramatic movie. He's constantly guiding you through normal stuff, a random conversation, a new job, an annoying delay, even a painful struggle. The real challenge for us is to not miss his hand at work in these moments that seem so, well, ordinary.
And why is this so critical to understand? Because if we're always looking for the spectacular, we are almost guaranteed to miss what God is doing right in front of our faces every single day.
So here's how we can put this into practice. First, just pay attention. Today, look for God's hand in the small details of your life. Second, be faithful in the little things, because those are the very building blocks God uses for His bigger plan. And finally, learn to obey Him, even when you don't get a huge sign from heaven or some powerful emotional rush. True trust is shown in our faithfulness when life is just ordinary.
So as we wrap all this up, we can see how both of these lessons, God's unseen protection and His ordinary providence, they both point to one single powerful conclusion. We have to trust our protector.
This simple prayer really gets to the heart of it all. It's a plea for help to trust God's plan, especially in those moments when it feels slow or quiet or anything but spectacular. It's an admission that our trust is tested the most, not in the massive earthquakes, but in the silence.
And that's the bottom line. The story of Paul's escape isn't really just about Paul. It's a demonstration of a timeless truth for all of us. God is in control of every plot, every detail, every moment. He is always working, so often in quiet and unseen ways, to protect His people and to accomplish His perfect plan. Our job is simply to trust Him,